Welcome to the Bigger Picture. I'm your host, Brendan Leung, and today I would like to introduce our special guest, Sebastian Bradshaw, who is a 18U hockey player out of Connecticut and a recent commit to a D1 school, UNH, for hockey. Can you just tell us how you started hockey and eventually how it led to you committing to an NCAA school?
Yeah, so going back all the way to like when I was like 3 or 4, my parents used to take me kind of like the parent taught skates, kind of just like we kind of skate around for fun. And they kind of saw that I was like a pretty good skater, kind of off the jump, and they saw that like I kind of loved it. I always wanted to go out there, and I was pretty competitive too. Like always try to race everyone. So that's when they kind of threw me into hockey. So I started playing kind of like low level hockey in my hometown Newcastle. So I was playing. It's considered kind of C level hockey. I wasn't able to play Select Seven, just kind of the area where I lived. So I played C hockey there my whole life. Played a year up, and then I went for my first year of novice. I played AAA for Clarington Toros. I played there for a few years. So then moving forward to when I was 13, 12, I I moved to Toronto for a year, played for Toronto Red Wings, and then I also kind of did the building situation with the Barlows, and then I also went to school at Everest Academy. So that was like an unreal experience for me. So I kind of met a bunch of awesome people there, like great hockey players. Um, and then after that hockey year, I went back to Clarington, kind of just for like my draft year kind of thing for a year, and then for my draft year for OHL. So I finished out my last two years before the draft with Clarington, and then the first OHL draft I actually wasn't selected, but we ended up running into the Ajax Pickering head coach, who's actually the head scout for Erie Otters, Mike Bada, and he was super interested in me, and that was last year. My last year's team, we finished off with like a record of 53, 3-3, and finished first in Canada. We sadly didn't go all the way, but like that was easily one of the best experiences I've ever had with a team, like the boys and everything in that. And then I was drafted to London right out of that year, first round in the U18 draft, 14th. So that was an unreal experience, but I just kind of knew how like the OHL route kind of was, like the hockey route with the OHL, and I kind of wanted something more out of that than just hockey. So I kind of wanted to go D1. My mind was more set on going D1, coming out with like an education and like a degree in something, just so I know, just because like as a hockey player, it's pretty hard to get to the NHL. So having something to fall back on is always nice to have. So I wanted to go that D1 route, and my advisor kind of recommended a couple schools, and one of them, like a prep school kind of thing that he recommended, was Peter Alden's Elite Hockey, and so we were very interested. Heard some good things about it. Came up for a tryout. They were super interested in me. So like right off the jump, I was super excited. Met some of the boys like Robbie and all them. Like when I went down, Langer, and so like I knew they're a great team, great boys, and I knew Pete had he knew what he wanted to do for the next year. So I was super excited, and I came down for the kind of like the spring skate, I guess. So I went down for that. I signed with Elite. Was super excited. Our season just ended this year, but it's been like an unreal experience, especially coming from like Canada and being on a team where so many kids are from like around the world. Like we got boys Seattle, like Belarus, all around the world. Like me, Canada. Had another kid from Canada. He's gone though, sadly. But yeah, it's been an unreal experience. We sadly didn't make it to the end of the year, like playoffs or all that finals, but it's been unreal. Peter Alden and Scott have helped me so much. They've gotten me like so much exposure and everything that I need to get to the next level. So yeah, so I just signed with Trail, which is nice, but and then after Trail, I'm heading to UNH hopefully. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah, and going into your experience, while you've been here in Connecticut, I know it's a very different scene. It's a very different environment
Yeah.
than what you would have in Canada. Would you just compare those two and give us a little background of what it actually has been like playing here?
Yeah. So back in Canada, the thing that's like a lot different is hockey in Canada. The school is not very looked at. School is so overlooked, and also the one thing that everyone focuses on is just the OHL back in Ontario, obviously. So everyone's so fixated on going to the OHL and not fixated on their school and like more like the long term jeopardy of everything. So that's why when I came here, everything was different. It was like school comes first, and then your hockey kind of thing, right? And your grades are so important. Where in Canada that doesn't happen, but yeah, and the hockey aspect of things, down here I found there's a lot more like skill, where Canada there's a lot of grit, so that was pretty different too. But I don't know, other than those few things, I think that's the only difference in the two. So
Yeah, and I know in our last episode, it was our first episode of the podcast where we talked to Quinn Tracy, who is also on the Elite 18's team. He got into a little just about how hockey has impacted his social life. Hockey just takes so much time and effort, so much travel, and you're away from like a true high school experience. Has hockey been a thing that's kind of been a good or bad thing for your social life?
it's 100% both. Like Quinn was talking about, kind of how he lost a few friends, and that's the risk you have to take. Or so like when you want to put your time into hockey, you're gonna lose some friends. You're not gonna be able to go out as much, like hang out with your buddies. You're gonna have to take those risks. But then you look at the bright side of things. You're meeting so many new kids and new friends that and teams that like you'll never forget for the rest of your life. And some kids even in the past, I still stay in contact with, and I'll never forget them. Right. And you learn so much too, like from coaches and everything. Like I don't know, like just kind of like the social aspect of things too, like being able to speak and like having the right mannerism, like everything like that I learned through hockey. So yeah, it's kind of more of both. Like obviously there's some pros and there's some cons as well. So
Has there ever been a moment in hockey where you felt like you wanted to give up and you really pushed through and then like you're happy because of where you are today?
yeah, I'm sure most kids kind of go through that. The one that was big for me was not getting drafted my first year of OHL, because like I said, kind of in Canada, that's the main goal, is making the OHL. So the first year I was supposed to get drafted, I didn't get drafted, and I was kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, is this like, did I do everything for nothing, basically, kind of thing? Like, is my hockey career kind of over? But then I kind of talked with like my sister. She helped me through that. So she talked to me a lot, and then I talked to my parents as well. And like it's going to the NHL and like going D1, going to the OHL. It's kind of more of a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So it's not, for some kids it kind of happens like in the snap of your fingers, but some kids it's going to take a little bit to get there. It's going to take hard work, and it's going to take time, right? So
Yeah, and I know at Elite we do the mentorship program, and we have that impact on our community as well as Skate for a Cure, Pink the Rink, where we look at things that are bigger than hockey, and we use our abilities on the ice to raise awareness, raise funding for different organizations that can help our community. Uh, what impact has the Elite community had on you?
yeah, so the elite hockey impact. So like you kind of talked about earlier about the mentorship program. Um, I had Hunter and Tyler, um, and they've been awesome. Like it sucks that I wasn't able to get out as much as I could, just kind of with practices and stuff. But they were two great kids, and the cool thing was I kind of stayed in touch with Terry, Tyler's mom, and she couldn't stop talking about how much Tyler looked up to me, and same with Hunter, and that's just something that's super cool, like kind of at this age and this level, to hear that kind of stuff. So that stuff is awesome. It kind of boosts your confidence and stuff like that. And then also with the Pink in the Rink program, like stuff like that, that also kind of opens your eyes a lot to like what some kids can't do. Like some kids are going through so much in families as well, and they don't have the same, they won't be able to experience the same stuff that you are. And it kind of just opens your eyes, right? So it the mentorship program and everything we do for the community really has, like I just said, kind of opens your eyes and like helps you realize what some of these people are going through and like what they look up to.
Oh yeah, totally. And as far as I know, with your commitment and then your plans to go play in the BC, um, you've got a lot of interest too from even the National Hockey League, the NHL.
Yeah.
How do you stay focused and committed to reaching that goal when it's years in the future?
Yeah. So you got to kind of take it one step at a time. So the way I kind of look at it is next year is still a year away, right? So as much as I've committed to UNH, that's still a while from now. You kind of have to take it one step at a time. So I just kind of prepare myself for the next step, not the 10 steps ahead of me, right? You got to focus on what's in front of you. So just kind of working out, doing as much as I can off ice and on ice, just to get ready, even mentally as well. So as much as I have like NHL teams looking at me and committed to UNH, I kind of just focusing on next year, like BCHL, kind of like that. Um, just because if you focus too much on like that NHL and the UNH, you might lose track of like what's in front of you and get too fixated, and it might throw your game off a little bit. So yeah, just kind of just stay focused on what's the next step.
Yeah, and what are some words of advice that you've received and who shared them with you?
Um, Words of advice. The one thing I said before in this was it's a marathon, not a race. My dad said that. That's one thing I'll never forget. Uh, when he told me that, I'll never forget that, and I always say that now, just because it's so true. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take nights, as Langer once said. He wrote down as a quote, so that is why I won't forget. So
Yeah, and is there any strengths or qualities that you have that most people look over or don't see?
yeah, so I think one thing that I or a few things that I could say about myself was I'm quite independent. Um, so kind of this hockey journey, as much as like, and I'm sure Langer could add on to this, but as much as there's so many people who help you out through this journey, it's kind of your own race, right? Like you're doing this kind of for yourself and on your own. Obviously, you have teammates and stuff like that, but being independent, like you're going to go through some struggles with yourself, and that you're going to have to overcome with yourself. Um, Also kind of things like moving away from home, that's going to be a big impact on you, so you got to get over those hurdles one by one on your own. And then I think one thing I could add onto that too is I'm kind of like a hard worker. Like when I'm not in season, like I'm almost working out and skating every day over the summer. um, I also try to go as hard as I can in the games and practices during season. Like even as couple hurdles this year I had to go through was like breaking my arm at the beginning of the season. So even with my broken arm, I was running at home almost every night just to kind of just stay in shape for the season. So stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and outside of Connecticut, what has been a time in your life that has just been huge for your personal growth?
Um, I think one thing that everyone can add on to this is kind of your family. Like spending time with your family, they kind of shape you, right? So being with my family, they've made me who I am. So like without my family, I couldn't have done this. So
Yeah, and has there been anybody in your life outside of family that's really helped you through, especially this last year? I know living away from home can be really difficult.
yeah, so this year there's been many people starting from the summer, three zones hockey. They helped me get ready for this year, like Johnny and Rob DeVoe and all them, Scotty. Um, but then kind of this year, getting in more to the season, starting with kind of like the billet families, like Kim and Mike and Alexa and Michael. They've helped me so much. They've provided like a house for me to stay at and the food that I need to excel. So I couldn't thank them enough. And then also moving on to kind of like Pete and Scott and even Jeff kind of later on through the season. But like I said before, that they've opened so many doors for me, like that for me to excel. Like I honestly wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have committed probably if it wasn't for them.
Yeah, and if throughout your life, is there any pieces of it that you would redo and why?
Uh, Honestly, I don't think so. You could always say I wish I worked harder, stuff like that. But in the hockey terms, no, I don't think there would be. I've had so many great experiences, met so many people. Like it's been awesome. Like this road, I couldn't wish for anything else.
Yeah, and if you had to say something to younger people that are going to be going through a similar experience as you, what advice would you give them?
Don't give up. Keep going. You're gonna go through some hard times. You're gonna doubt yourself, but just keep pushing. If you put in the work and put your mind to it, like you can do kind of what Quinn said. You can do whatever you want if you really work and put in that extra work. Because like one thing I always say is kind of there's always a kid working harder than you. So if you kind of think that mentality and always work harder than that kid beside you, then you can go places.
Yeah, and kind of leaning off that question, I know Peter Alden, the coach of the team this year for Elite Hockey Academy 18s, and even Scott Davison as well. They talk about leaving the jersey in a better place, and to me, that kind of touches on kind of your legacy, what you want to be remembered as
Hmm.
for the next generation of players that fill your stall. What you want your legacy to be in the community.
Um, Obviously on the ice, I want to be kind of remembered for obviously, I'm sure every kid would say this, kind of how they played, how good they were, putting up points, kind of stuff like that. But off the ice is just as important, like at the school as well, even at Notre Dame. I want to be kind of remembered as a kid who was well rounded, right? Kind of he was nice and respectable, um, and respectful, and he and everyone enjoyed, right, having around, just because your off ice experience is just as important as your on ice, and the people you meet is just as important as well.
Yeah, and I know it's a very different experience being at Notre Dame High School versus schooling up in Canada. My brother actually spent a year up in Penticton area playing hockey as a 14-year-old, and he said the schooling experience is very different. Uh, just tell me a little bit about your jump into um, schooling down here in America.
Yeah, so I've actually been to many schools throughout my life. Um, I went to school my whole life in Canada, but I've jumped to a few. Been to one prep school before, um, but the Notre Dame experience is nothing like I've experienced at all. It's my first all boys school that I've been to, first Catholic all boys school I've been to, and honestly, it's probably been my best high school experience for sure. I've met so many kids at the school that have been awesome, and that I kind of even talk with even outside of school a little bit. Um, the teachers here are awesome. They've helped me so much with like grades and everything like that. So yeah, honestly, just the Notre Dame's been unreal for me. So I can be happier.
Yeah, and what are you excited about? I know you have so much going for you right now, so many things to look forward to in hockey, but outside of hockey, what are you excited about?
Yeah, so stepping away from hockey, um, one thing I always say too is, as much as like hockey's important and that's kind of what you dedicate your life to, there's always some times where you kind of need to take a break from hockey and step away from it. So just kind of putting your mind aside always helps with hockey. I find kind of just stepping away. That's kind of like why the NHLers, I find, they play golf and stuff in the summer. It kind of just relaxes your mind to get you ready for next season. So a few things I'm kind of like excited for, honestly, is the summer. Obviously, I can't wait to get started playing, like hanging out with friends and stuff like that in the summer. Fishing season, stuff like that's coming up, so I can't wait for that. Um, And then yeah, like kind of like I was said, getting ready for next season.
Yeah, and for off season this year in particular is huge,
Yeah,
right? I mean this is really a time where you need to be building and preparing for next year, so you could lead into your collegiate career and then hopefully professionally. What are you going to do different this year in the off season?
yeah. So I still have a few months down here in Connecticut before I head home for the summer. So during those few months of the season being over, I'm gonna try to skate as much as I can still, but then also I'm gonna work out as much as I can. If it's not in a gym, like getting a gym membership, I'm also gonna work out at home. So like run every day, hopefully. Just kind of stay physical. Um, and then during the summer, I usually get a gym membership for myself, and then I also have a trainer in the summer who lives kind of 10 minutes from me, so that's really nice. Um, so I kind of work that in the gym, and then I kind of skate with 3 zones of perfect skating down in Ontario over the summer, and then that's kind of how I stay in shape and get ready for the season, and just kind of watching hockey too. Like I'll watch a lot of my games over as well. Just kind of you can see what you can learn on and get better on, just to kind of help yourself when you skate and work out.
Yeah, and what is the greatest compliment you've ever been given, and why was it meaningful to you?
Ooh. Um, I have to think of that one. Honestly, I think one of the greatest compliments I've had is this year. Um, like I said, Terry said that her son looks up to me, and I'm kind of his role model. And like even at the end of the season, I had to sign a card for me, and it's something small, and a lot of people would overlook it, but that's something like you'll never forget, right? Like I've never kind of heard that. I've always had compliments, kind of like you're fast, like you're gross, kind of like that. But when you have someone who like actually sits there and looks up to you, it's something you don't forget.
Yeah, and so I know for the guys from Seattle, our 16U year, or my second year, Quinn's and Jimmy Zeisel's first year at 16s, we played for Snow King Junior Hockey Association out of Kirkland, Seattle. And one of the most memorable times I've had in hockey is with that group. And I like all the memories I've made and all the experiences I've had, that group was it. Like that group was something that impacts me still to this day. Has there ever been a team that's really been like something that's just completely changed your life?
Yeah. Aside from this year, I'd say it'd have to be last year. Um, I've been through a few teams in my life, but last year, no teams come close. I'm sure you had the same experience, but everybody got along. Like you were a team, and like everyone, we got together almost. I think almost literally every week we got together to do something. Like, and we still stay in touch. I stay in touch with probably 3/4 of the team still, just to kind of check up on them, see stuff like that, and they'll hit me up sometimes too and see how I'm doing. And I still stay in touch with the coach. Like that team is just something you don't forget. And like kind of having a season like that too, going like 53, 3-3, like that's just an unreal season. It kind of just speaks for itself, right?
Yeah, we talked about obviously the role of Pete and Scott this year with you and helping you get to where you want to go. But I know outside of like coaches, there's got to be someone or a small group of people that have been there for you consistently and are your biggest supporters. Who are they?
Yeah. The easiest one to say like off the hop would be my family. So kind of like my mom, dad, and sister. It's like Nikki, as much as she's your sister, and you wouldn't think about that. She has been through like so much as well. She's had to kind of make the sacrifices for me to kind of be where I am. She's been to so many of my tournaments and games and stuff like that. So I couldn't thank her enough as well, as along with my parents. And my mom and dad have done it's like insane, like it's too much for me to ask. Like, um, yeah. So if I make it big, I'm definitely paying them back, for everything they've done. But yeah, so definitely those three for sure. But then to kind of move on to the hockey side of things, I kind of mentioned them before a little bit, but the people that have been with me from the start, 100% is Three Zones Hockey. So kind of Rob DeVoe, Johnny, Scotty, Chris, all those boys. They've been with me since I was, I think, 6 years old, 6, 7. So honestly, since the start of my actual hockey career, and they they've supported me throughout the whole thing, and trained me to kind of be the player that I am today. So
Yeah, and this one is kind of a more difficult one, so you can take your time. But has there ever been a time when an idea or belief of yours was questioned, and how did you respond?
yeah, honestly, this year I kind of questioned it. Was like, it is getting drafted to the NHL actually like going to happen? Like, can I actually make that work? Um, and I kind of talked to Kim, my billet mom, about this even a little bit. It was just, you kind of question, like, is that going to happen? Kind of playing your year, where most kids are playing juniors or BCHL, OHL, kind of NCAA stuff like that, where you're kind of playing just another year AAA. But the way I kind of look at it now is, no matter where you're playing, you can get noticed. You just gotta just work hard. And this year kind of really opened my eyes to, then, like, when making central scouting, and having teams come to these games, you 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 definitely see, like, this is possible, like this can actually happen. So I think that's a belief that changed, or disbelief that I had, that changed this year.
Yeah, and I know you at your billet house. You have your billet brother Jake Lindstrom, another 18U player.
Hmm.
He's headed off to Mercer next year in the NCDC. But you know, you also live with Mike, who's a youth hockey player within our organization. How has living with a kid that's looking to one day be in the same stalls as you and Lindstrom, how has that impacted you?
A lot. He comes to a bunch of our games, and as much as you wouldn't think about it, but you want to play your best for him to come watch. As much as he's a goalie and we're players, you still want him to kind of exceed, in his hockey career. So having him see the stuff you do, so kind of like training, working out, stuff like that, practices, and going as hard as you can, and it, I'm sure he takes a lot from that. And, like, also seeing kind of us moving, like Lindstrom's coming from Colorado and I'm coming from Canada, so um, Mike will see that, and I know he'll know he'll have to make some sacrifices. But I think Mike takes a lot from us, and he's a pretty smart kid, and he knows a lot about the world of hockey at his age. So I think Mike's gonna do really well, and it's unreal that he looks up to both of us. So
Yeah, and if you could live your life outside of hockey, live your life fighting for one cause, what would it be and why?
yeah, that's a good question. The cause, like, I'd say, instead of hockey, everyone has their dreams, right? I'm sure everybody had their, like, a secondary kind of dream, but the kind of thing I kind of strive for, and Quinn kind of touched base on this a little bit. Quinn was kind of talk about money a little bit. It kind of drives him, but the thing I kind of more look at is the longevity of things. Is like kind of having a family, right? Like being able to sustain that family, and provide them the life and, like, the opportunities that I was given. So that kind of pushes me to. So, like, one thing I've always kind of looked at, and, like, that I wanted to be, is kind of a detective. So I kind of look at that as being a detective, and having a strong family that I can provide.
Yeah, and I guess one of our last things is going to be you could make a time capsule right now for us. And looking back at a message, what would you send to your future self like in 10 years?
Um, I think, honestly, it would be it'd be the same thing, as I'd give the same message to younger kids, just because there's a lot of times you kind of feel down on yourself. So as much as I'd throw a little couple things in there, like work on your skating and stick handling and stuff like that, I'd also throw in there kind of just keep working hard and work as hard as you can, because like it's not that far off, right? You're just getting closer step by step. So just keep pushing.
Well, Sebi, thank you so much for your time
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
allowing, yeah, of course, and just for allowing our audience to relate with you, grow from, and just be inspired by your story. I truly do believe that through others' lives, we improve our own. We can better our relationships, communities, and ourselves. Because we just navigate such different paths in life. So I hope everyone listening will join me soon again on our next journey. Thank you so much for listening to The Bigger Picture.